All right, everyone, welcome back to Street City Studio. I'm John, and today we're going to talk about some Marvel Universe figures. A lot of you might already know I'm a big fan of 3 3/4, and it kind of started, at least in my adult life, with Marvel especially, but uh, a lot of my collecting 3 3/4 revolved around Marvel Universe. And I was a big fan of the Marvel Universe line. Um, and so we'll jump right into it. I grabbed a couple loose figures this over the weekend. It's Tuesday now, but over the weekend I had grabbed a few figures I was super excited to get my hands on, and so we'll talk about that a little bit. Right, we got me a Black Knight figure, and this is one he was never super high on my list, but I always meant to get him. I just never got around to him. Pull him in here a little closer. Always liked the Black Knight, though. The idea of this medieval looking knight fighting alongside the rest of the heroes in modern times, right? And I always liked the leather jacket version with his lightsaber sword, too. I kind of think I preferred that one usually in the comics, but I really do like this figure. I will say he kind of has this weird cut on his bicep there that I don't love. But you can see on his other bicep too, that's where they clipped it, the plastic parts at the factory. So it probably just came out of the factory like that. But I'm super happy to have a Black Knight figure. I'm going to take this hello down. Probably won't need that the whole episode. Get to that. But he wasn't the only figure I got neither. I got Electro. Now, I already had this figure, technically, or for all intents and purposes, I had the figure already. But I didn't have his lightning or his electricity, right? And so I really grabbed him just because he was at a good price and he had the electricity. And technically, this older one, the one I had already, might be in a little better condition. It's probably a little hard to tell, but some of the gold on the new one, especially around his shorts and belt here, is really faded and almost green looking. But other than that, they're both pretty decent shape. I think some of that gold is worn off on the hands as well. But again, I don't know how well that's coming through on the camera there. But yeah, just some of his gold looks a little faded when you compare them. But he still looks pretty good. And now I still need the translucent version. There's a version with his arms are translucent like his lightning. And I really, he's got some loose ankles it seems. I really don't like how they've got these straight legs, right? They've got articulation to the front and back. But you really can't twist them left to right at all. There's no thigh cut. There's no ankle or even knee action to the left or right. It's just front to back. There is a ball hip, but it doesn't have much range. And so these are definitely at the very very early stages of 3 3/4 articulation development, but even if it's just for the nostalgia sake at this point, right, I'm going to try and fill some of the gaps that I never got around to filling. Like that translucent electro, I'll eventually grab him if I can probably find him on eBay or something. Kind of getting carried away, dragging on, but I got another figure I was really happy to get here. Black Cat, Felicia Hardy. And now, just like I was saying with Electro here, her articulation is terrible, right? She has no wrists, right? No torso articulation, right? And her legs, just like his, have only the front to back articulation, right? She has pretty good articulation in her knees, and even her ankle has a good range front to back. And it's kind of even a rocker ankle, kind of, but it has such a small window of play that it might as well not even be. Oh, there goes her leg, right? And that was some of the problems you're seeing play out in real time with these figures, right? If you tried to get them in any kind of poses, you might lose an arm or a leg in the process and be wrestling it back on. And honestly, maybe let me know what you guys think, because I've been thinking a lot about articulation and detail as I've been trying to get better pictures and do things like that. I'm thinking about moving out of 3 3/4 scale. Thinking about moving up into Marvel Legends and possibly like G.I. Joe classified lines, some of those lines, right? Because they're very nice figures. They're very well articulated, very well detailed, and I see lots of pictures on Facebook and Instagram, and even here on YouTube. I see lots of pictures and videos, and I really do wish some of these guys could do what those figures do, right? Wish I could get poses and fight scenes that these guys just can't do, right? I was hoping to do something with this Black Cat. Maybe jumping off of something or perched on something. That's the only action pose you can get her in almost. Right? That's it. Like, what can you really do with these arms? There's such a small window of range, right? Most of them just look good in 1 or 2 poses, basically. And that used to be my complaint about right, a lot of those Spawn figures and stuff. They were like articulated statues, right? And so as articulation gets better, I mean, I want better articulation. As the details get better, I want the better details, right? Just like Star Wars figures, right? They get better by leaps and bounds almost yearly, right? And we covered this just recently, right? But there's that new Jango Fett. You can compare it to the older Jango Fett. There, get his helmet off there. Right, and that's just leaps and bounds better. Right, and so I kind of want my Marvel figures to catch up, just like my Star Wars figures are catching up now, right? So I'm thinking there's a short list, or well, it's probably not even a short list, but there's a good handful of these 3 3/4 figures. I want to say Marvel Universe, but some of them might not even be Marvel Universe exactly. Some of them might fall in that Marvel Infinites category, or there's a Spider-Man line, or several Spider-Man lines. There's a Iron Man movie line, Thor movie line. But I wanted to maybe go over some of those figures here and talk about the ones that I still need to get. As I'm reaching for my phone, I realized I'm forgetting 2 more figures. My girlfriend picked these up for me this weekend, and they don't stand very good. So I'm kind of propping them against the wall here, but I got some zombies this weekend. Two zombies, and they're not very articulated, and they're not the most amazing figures, but they are pretty decent dollar store zombies. Right? They do have swivel waist and some swivel shoulders, so you can do a little bit of posing if you need to, right? Like some shambling or whatever. But they are pretty gruesome, pretty detailed and bloody. Kind of like that. There's the other one. I've got a good handful of assorted monsters and zombies and werewolves and whatnot, so they'll mix in good with that. And anytime I'm doing some sort of zombie thing, right, I can just throw them in the zombie crowd, make a little zombie horde, I guess, right? That'd be cool. Probably get these guys out of the way for the rest of this, or at least off to the side a bit or something. And we'll start going through some of these figures I still feel like I need. Alright, let's see. Start this list off. Let's see, I need a... This is weird writing like this. I'm gonna have to work on this. Spider-Man. Alright. So, if you've been following me, you might know, but I'm sure lots of you are new enough that you don't know. I do not have a standard Spider-Man. My classic suit Spider-Man lost his hand. It just popped right off while I was trying to take some pictures. It's a few months ago now, and I just haven't gotten around to replacing him. But that is a need, right? I do have some Spider-Man figures. I have an Iron Spider, and I have a Big Time Spidey. Trying to think if I'm forgetting. I have a Tom Holland Spider-Man, but I don't have just a standard classic Spider-Man. And the Marvel Universe figures had several options to choose from. I'm just gonna pull out these screenshots. I got some screenshots from the Marvel Universe wiki, right? But there's several versions of Spider-Man, right? I believe this is the one I have right here, right? The lighter blue. But then there's a variant with the darker blue. And honestly, I would have to see them in person, but I don't know that I have a preference. Either one would be fine, right? Either one is your standard Spider-Man. Right? And that's probably not even the only. There's probably a good handful of others too, I'm sure. But so I need some sort of classic suit Spider-Man. And we'll run through the list kind of quick here, but we got two versions of Bullseye. I definitely prefer the black, but I could use a Bullseye. I don't have no Bullseye. We got the hand ninja, right? I do have the white ninja, the chase ninja, but just one. And these guys are awesome because you can army build them, right? I would love 5 to 10 red ninjas. That would be awesome. Need me a good red Hulk, and they had quite a few to choose from, right? Out of these two, I think I prefer the darker pants and the glossy variant. But I believe there is a version with black pants as well, and that's probably better. I think black pants. I do need a Hobgoblin, and I had this figure before, but what I like to do is take this figure and get the Hobgoblin figure from the Spider-Man figure line, because he came with the purple glider, and I like this figure with the purple glider, so I wouldn't mind doing that again. Yep, okay, so I don't really need to stop on this one too long, but there's that translucent Electro, and that's definitely a need. I'll probably put that up there, right? Just because that's one I need. Right, probably more than that Bullseye, but Bullseye would be nice too. But also, right beneath him there is another Spider-Man. And this one, I believe, instead of blue, it is black, almost like a Alex Ross painting or something, right? But that one is slightly less desirable, but it would do as well. I don't dislike the black instead. But we'll move right on to Luke Cage. I'm a big fan of this figure, but I never liked the hat exactly. The hat looks kind of weird. But otherwise, I'd love to have that figure on my shelf. I do not have a Luke Cage at the moment. And actually, he can probably go on the list too. He's important enough. We'll just put Cage. Right, we'll move right along. Now for Havoc here, right? We've got two versions. I have this version with his hair out there like that. But I don't prefer this version unless he has the brown leather jacket, right? And so that's kind of a missed opportunity. So I need this figure, the classic Havoc, and we'll put him on that list too, actually. Right along here, we got a couple guys right here. I do have an Iron Patriot, but I wouldn't mind the Norman Osborn variant with his unmasked head there. But like I was saying before, some of these heads, I mean, they're so generic that doesn't even really look like a Norman Osborn to me. Right? It just looks like some generic head. But we can move along to the Wrecking Crew. I need most of these guys. I believe I have one, right? And it's the guy in mostly yellow or mostly green with the yellow trunks. I'm going to have trouble remembering their names individually. But we'll just throw them up here as all of them because I only have the one, right? Wrecking Crew. It's getting sloppy, isn't it? Sorry about that, guys. I'm going to have to work on that. It's being up in front of me, right? Even if it was like on a painting easel, it would be tipped back a bit and I would have a more natural position in front of it. But those are just excuses. I'm going to have to work on maybe a better setup for it. Maybe something laying down, right? To where you guys can't tell it's laying down. But then if I try to pull any figures in, I would have to just lay them on the glass or something because they wouldn't stand up. Right? That's all right. I'll figure it out off screen. We don't have to get into all of that right here. I'm just realizing that my handwriting be real rough. Like sometimes, right? Sometimes, like Havoc and Cage here, it's very legible, right? Electro's legible, but you seen when I was trying to write out Spider-Man, it was kind of rough, right? There's some big gaps and then little gaps and right uneven writing like this heavy W, and then it gets thinner as I go. That's all right. It's just inexperience and learning curve, learning process, all that. You know what I'm saying? I'll try and keep it rolling here though. We'll move right along. This is another Spider-Man, right? Spider-Man 2099, but that doesn't exactly count as a classic Spider-Man, right? So that's a completely separate character, separate figure. But equally as important, I think, right? We'll go Spidey 2099. But that's a gorgeous figure too. I would love to have that figure up with like my Batman Beyond or something. Where is he at? Some Terry McGinnis Batman Beyond with some Miguel O'Hara Spider-Man 2099. That'd be cool. That'd be a good fight. And keeping it rolling with Spider-Man, right? I need a Scarlet Spider. So he's going up there too. Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider. Now, I don't know about you guys. I know Scarlet Spider was kind of divisive. A lot of people didn't like Ben Reilly's Scarlet Spider. I was always a big fan of this costume. It's very 90s, and I'm a 90s kid, right? I like that. That was a punk rock Spidey before there was a punk rock Spidey, or you know what I mean? Keep it moving. Who else am I missing? Oh, yep. So we'll go right there. Well, you can barely see him, can't you? Miles Morales, Spider-Man. Let's just put Miles. We'll just go with Miles M. Right? And this one is actually pretty well articulated. Unlike a lot of the Miles Morales I'm seeing on the shelves these days at Target and whatnot, they be looking even less articulated than these, and this is already subpar. right? So I try to avoid a lot of these newer, less articulated figures. But I do get some of them, like the Guardians of the Galaxy movie figures. I will be getting these Fantastic Four movie figures. But I think the Fantastic Four movie figures got me thinking about this list. That's what gaps do I really need to fill before I think about changing scales. Right. Keep moving here. We got Kraven. And now there were two versions of Kraven, I believe. This very modern looking one, which I like a lot. And there was a more classic one. But we'll put Kraven up here. Kraven. And actually, I'm going to put 2 next to it. Because I think I need both versions, right? They're distinct enough that I'll take both versions. Alright, so moving on, we got several more. We got Bagman Spidey. He's got to go on. Bagman. And we got the Future Foundation Spidey. That's a great looking suit. So, FF Spidey. On to the next one. I definitely need that Professor X. I don't know how I haven't gotten him yet, but that's an amazing figure and I need one. So we'll go right here. Professor X. And even right next to him, that Jubilee's a pretty decent figure. I kind of wish her blast effects could have been better, or something to write home about. But Jubilee. Alright, and next up we got this Rhino figure. This is another one that I always wanted, and I don't know how I haven't gotten him yet. But I want him. I gotta get my hands on one. So, Rhino. Now, I remember I had gotten some of the earlier Rhino figures from these lines, and I just never liked them very much. But when I saw this one, I knew that's just the perfect Rhino figure. And I'm not exactly sure how well he scales. He could be a little bigger, like a lot of these Marvel Universe big guys. But other than his height, that's a figure to get. Elektra, I'll put her on the list. But I remember seeing the figure in a store, and I didn't love it. I didn't love it at all, and I had passed on it. But in hindsight, I still need an Elektra, so she's on the list. Alright, and another one I need is Omega Red. Omega Red. That's a great figure, more or less. I do wish his tentacles were better, more manipulatable, right? Maybe you could change the length of them, change the positions of them, whatever. But it's a nice looking figure nonetheless. Right? We can move on to what is it? X-Force Nightcrawler. That's an amazing figure. X-Force Nightcrawler. That's sloppy, but whatever. We can move on to Alpha Flight there. I do have Puck and Guardian, and I have the Toy Biz Sasquatch. So Aurora's a need, right? Oh, moving on. Bishop. That's one I always wanted, but I never liked the lack of articulation. Right, but I'll throw them up there just because I need a bishop. Who else? Oh, yeah. Okay, so just like that last one, I never liked the lack of articulation on this Daredevil. And I really don't like the Billy Club being permanent, but it's such a nice looking figure, right? So Daredevil. Red and black. Right? Thunderstrike. He's definitely an important one, right? Now, Shanna the She-Devil there, she's a lot less important to me, so I'm not even going to put her on the list. But we will put this Dr. Octopus and this Vulture on the list. Doc Ock, Vulture. Right. Who else do we? Oh, there we go. North Star right down there. We'll put him right down there with Aurora. North Star. That's a great one to finish filling out the Alpha Flight, right? Chameleon's an important one, I think. I always like Chameleon. He's an interesting character when he's done justice. Kraven's brother. That was probably the only real exciting part of the movie, was seeing the birth of Chameleon, but it really wasn't done very well. So, and here we got Emma Frost is definitely a necessity. And that's actually a pretty decent figure with thigh cuts and calf cuts and stuff. Looks like wrist articulation too, right? Can't go wrong with that. Oh yeah, that Quasar. I like that figure a lot. I like that costume a lot. Running out of room. Alright, Quasar. I always like that Rogue. Classic villain Rogue, but it's not exactly a need. There it is. It's not exactly the most important. That Moon Knight. I like that Moon Knight a lot, but I already have a Moon Knight, the classic Moon Knight in all white. So it's not exactly a necessity. Oh yeah, that Age of Apocalypse Magneto. I would love to get my hands on that one. So AOA Magneto. And that's it. Jessica Jones, right? Jewel, Jessica Jones. And I kind of like that 2099 alternate 2099 too. Where is that one at? Where did I leave 209? Right there. So this one, I'm going to put 2 next to that one too. Get both of them. Okay. Trying to swipe through real quick and see. Right, there's some alternates, right? Like there's an alternate Future Foundation, and that's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind that. Future Foundation Doctor Doom, that's really cool. Right, there's that Rhino that I said I had one of these before, but I didn't love it. That's a terrible figure. I don't like it at all. Right, some classic Loki. I'd love a classic Loki like that, but I think that might be a giant one. I can't remember. Some Inhumans. I remember thinking, right, some of these figures look real bad, especially those wings with those big thick bands around his bicep. I didn't love that, but I might eventually get them if I see them at the right price, I guess. Oh, there's one. Long Shot. That's a good one. I'd love to get my hands on that Long Shot. Long Shot. I think I'm getting pretty close to the end here, because there can't be too many more figures, and I'm definitely running out of room. I know that translucent Nightcrawler, that one's high on my list. Right. I know I had a Nightcrawler up here somewhere, didn't I? Yeah, X-Force Nightcrawler and translucent. That'd be great. Oh, here we go. So, this is what I had mentioned before, right? There's that more classic take on Kraven. I'd love to get that. And we had looked at a classic green jumpsuit Dr. Octopus. I wouldn't mind the purple business suit either. Both are very classic looks. Oh, yeah. And I have several Archangels. I have Archangel, I have Angel with the feathered wings and the blue suit. I have the Death's Head Archangel with the skull mask, but I could still use the silver and black for X-Force. That's a really cool one. I'd love that Nick Fury, Unmasked Doom, right? Oh yeah, and I had saved some of these because I'm a big fan of Shocker, and I couldn't decide which figure was best in the scale. But there are a couple options, and I think I'm leaning towards this one just because it's more true to his classic look. But I think that's about it. That finishes our list out pretty good, I think. So having gone through it and made this list, right, one thing that jumps out at me is that a lot of the figures didn't even make it up on this list. It's more figures than I was thinking it was. For some reason, I feel like I'm nearing the end of my collecting these Marvel Universe guys. But putting it into a list like this, I really start to realize how many I'm still missing. So that's kind of nice. I can still be at it a while. I'll still be buying 3 3/4 figures for a little while at least, right? But I am thinking about other scales, and some of you know, right? Some of you might know. I do step out of scale once in a while for certain figures, like the Gargoyles. I'm a big fan of those cartoons, and the figures are amazing, so it's real hard to pass up, especially when they're hardly more expensive than some of these Star Wars. He's probably a bad example, but some of these Star Wars figures, he's a good example maybe, are nearly the same price. So you get a whole lot more figure for that price at least. But I'm definitely thinking about maybe picking up a G.I. Joe Classified, maybe picking up a Marvel Legend or two, and seeing if I don't get some good pictures with them, seeing how that goes. Because I've really been struggling lately. It seems like every time I grab a figure, right, that I want to take a picture of, like I said with her, you can't get her into any poses that look like a good action attack or anything, you know? Like, maybe a little bit, but with no torso articulation, no wrist articulation, really limited arm and leg articulation, even her head, right? She can only look left or right, but she doesn't have an up and down barely at all. And a lot of them are like that. So, just for the sake of getting better results, right? That's probably why a lot of you guys jumped over way back 10, 15 years ago when you guys did too. And I just held on, I guess, longer than some. But, I mean, that's not a bad thing. I want to finish my collection. And then maybe start a new one, right? Let me know what you guys think. I'll probably wrap it up right here. I appreciate you guys hanging out and checking out my list. This is a long one today. Hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Keep playing with them toys. I'll talk to you again real soon.